So myself, Dr. in Cybersecurity, and Executive Director of Council for Earth Leadership and Sustainability. I'll be focusing mostly on the energy. I myself being a geologist, I understand including the sources of energy that we have, the natural sources or fossil fuels and other things. So here ultimately there are only two things, so that is matter and energy in between space. This is how the whole world is created between these three. But other three things which are ruling the whole world, that is energy, environment, and economy. I say within environment, I want to add this climate change factor. But otherwise, all countries, the superpowers are, which they claim that they are industrially well developed. All this, they are developing at the cost of the environment. Means by damaging the environment, by using the energy, their economies are growing. So economies and energy both are directly proportional, and that's how during the lockdown situation, or if some country a few years back, China claimed that their GDP is very good. So when people observed their usage of energy, it was not so high. Actually, the stock market was crashing and the whole economy was poor. So even by looking at the consumption of energy, one can say the health of a country. So that is how this global the nations or what we say the development, all these things are existing as of now. So in this, ultimately, what we are looking at is sustainability. So by using energy and by improving economies, can we make Earth sustainable? No. By preserving what we had, I mean to say the biodiversity, all the resources, and that's how it existed since millions of years. Earth. Last 200 years only, the people are accelerating to use all kinds of resources, energy, exhausting everything almost all, and our growth is also very high. So in this situation, I think sustainability is a very big factor globally and is very although we use again and again, and sustainable development goals are also there. But still, I think there is a lot that we need to do to, especially if this definition need to continue into the future generations, then how do you see? Uh, they have nothing to even exist. Then there is the question of sustainability when we ourselves have not left anything for them to sustain themselves minimum. So here I think one of the biggest global challenge for good or bad, we have one situation that is called oil peak, or including coal peak. So this is the when you can no more extract oil sustainably or economically. So at that time, people will start exploring and exploiting this oil. That is what oil peak. 2035 is the date actually, year. Again for coal peak 2050 something around. And in spite of countries, if they might have declared themselves that we will not use fossil fuels, we will not use coal, all this will stop. Anyhow, they will stop. There is no way for them to declare that we are going to stop this. So that's what they're doing. They are in a hurry. Actually, the global scenario is Europe is the biggest disaster is the energy crisis of European all nations, almost all, except Norway. I think the Germany, it had taken long back the green path, and they have moved away from nuclear energy sources. France still continue with nuclear. UK also given up this coal and other things. But now I think they are reverting in the present scenario where Russia is unable to support them with the cheap gas due to the political instability in that region between Ukraine and Russia, or including the new relationships that are happening, that some countries are not producing enough gas and oil so that the prices would come down. And the prices are soaring like anything. And this is adding to inflation. Moreover, we had the biggest epidemic. And in the climate change context, now even if some countries drill more wells and they take out oil, you might be supporting the economy, but as part of greenhouse gas emissions, we'll be contributing more. If it is cheaper, we are tend to use more. But people need to have a better livelihood. So how do we address? I think this is a very big global challenge happening, and OPEC countries, the petrodollar, it's a kind of virtual economy that was created, and some countries had been enjoying with that kind of exchange mechanism of a dollar. I think those things are also becoming irrelevant. So in this, I think a global reorganization of countries and the trade negotiations and all these things will put in chaos. There won't be any control much even for the UN to declare or say that you are emitting, you need to control. All these things will not happen. And many countries which are poorer, they are not even they don't even have better livelihoods, and they will not immediately stop such industries which are highly emitting. So this is another crisis. Or they might cut down their jungles, they might convert the biomass into coal. So many things might happen in poorer countries. So energy is fundamental. So these things are happening, and the greenhouse gases being contributed because of the energy, especially from fossil fuel, including the traditional sources where technologies are very bad, and those areas are also contributing. Ultimately, we are thinking of decarbonization. I think, as our earlier expert has spoken, so decarbonization and carbon neutrality, all these things are a kind of promises or way of saying things. The jargon is beautiful, but in reality, the emissions would tend to continue. The present scenario, the modelings that we have, and the actions that have been taken place, including the failure of CDM mechanisms where they want to bring down as part of mitigation. So there was transfer of money, the transfer of technology, but there are various means again to pollute or contribute to climate change. So that is happening already. So this 1.5 degree, forget, within 1 2 years it is going to reach anyhow. But 2 degrees will reach very soon, and up to 66 degrees it might go average global temperature. So that is already the trends are given, and that's what happening. And here, I think the younger generations, we are not looking at them actually. The present generations, they exhausted and they are still like somebody earlier, the people used to make children eat first and elders would eat later. But this elder generation or the generation which has polluted the most is in such a hurry even to eat away that leftovers and not to leave anything for the future. See, they have created enough debt for every nation, and no debt is going to be paid by the current generation. Within that, this climate change and the pollution and all these things are the biggest threats. Then how they will exist? So nobody is looking at. So renewable energies and alternative sources, I think that's what I say. Even in an electric vehicle, give them some coal, let them put in their electric vehicle and let them run, because they have thermal power plant somewhere, and they are polluting somewhere, and they are taking the clean electricity, the so-called, and they are running there. EVs. In what way it is justified? And including the lithium, cobalt, nickel, graphite, all these, I think where it is existing, if we see geographically, and who is processing, China ultimately. So these are some of the very remote countries where poverty is very high and mining is so cheap because such people are working in high risk areas. And even if you map, these are the eco-sensitive zones, ecologically highly sensitive zones, and these are the countries where corruption is very high. And when we have so many challenges like poverty or indigenous communities are there, the biodiversity conservation zones they are, and political instabilities are existing in those zones. So from there, these things need to be mined, even to make this so-called what you say, solar panels or photovoltaic or wind energy systems or whatever we are telling recently. So these renewable energies per se, the models, they are fine. Even solar panels, the kind of space they occupy, it's very huge at the cost of again removing the local biomass or local animals. Even in Arizona, that area, they removed lots of turtles, tortoises, land tortoise, desert tortoise, and cut away so much other existing, even that little scanty biomass from the ground. And then they had this is a very critical thing actually. And yes, this artificial way of the ultimate source of energy is the only one, that is biomass, that is ultimately generated from the uh, solar system, that is renewable given a time to regenerate biomass and use it. Then it's perfect. That is a natural system that we have given, and we are looking at various other things. And here, even for hydropower plants, no more. The dams maladaptation, if you see, hydropower has become a kind of maladaptation in many areas. At the cost of forest, this hydropower has come, or they are causing, again, due to climate change, floods are happening. Sometimes, because of so many dams, the inundation is very high, and the water is not going out very easily, or improper management of this irrigation or control systems to release of water. And we have many examples of the biggest disasters due to hydro, including hydropower or even for irrigation, whatever they have done. So maladaptation is a big factor. Within climate change, I think we need to be conscious, even suggesting somebody what is right and what technology we need to. We should have a long-term vision in whatever we suggest. I think our scientific community should not be in a haste to suggest the technologies. Uh, so this is also very critical. But sometimes we see that the air pollution that happened or the greenhouse gases that we have, they're also pollutants. This pollution led to maximum deaths globally. So the current thermal power plants, let us say, are including fossil fuel usage in our energy systems. Then the including people say that the nuclear power plants have less impact, even if we have accident like Chernobyl. I think without that, the maximum people are dying every day, millions. The whatever the traditional systems are also there. I don't suggest nuclear power as a alternative, but I'm telling even to compare that. So now I think this. The mining is going to be a big area when related to even the renewables. I think this is going to lead to again shift of focus of our many countries, especially the developed countries. Even whatever wars happened that we have seen, that is because of this energy related thing only. Mostly, let us say the Middle East relationships or the wars that happened in Iraq are including the Iran issues. many things. So I think with mining again there will be this polarity, and many countries will have tried to get into those poor countries and start mining. And here, uh, one of the beautiful examples for me is the local adaptation. When we say something like Panchaki, when I was in Himalayas, the water was flowing down. It has no almost no impact. Where the water is flowing, you have your grinder with some blades in the water turning. That's a perfect way. So like that, I think we need lots of decentralized energy options. That is far better. And now coming down to the community level energy, because my work is related mostly to rural energy, especially biomass. So I was looking, including earlier animal power was there, and this biomass was consumed by animals, and this animal power was the resource which was very much sustainable, sustained by local communities, and it was very good. But now this mechanization is very fast in rural areas also, and we have lots of leftover crop residue. They are burning it again, contributing to climate change and global warming. So stubble burning issue now in northern part of India, a major challenge. Otherwise, all over India it is happening. It is causing smog and health issues, including contributions are increasing. I think pollution and many challenges are related to that. Anyhow, some of this biomass is being converted into pellets. There are some programs now to convert into pellets, torrefication of this biomass, and usage later on. So this energy is being wasted, including 800, 900 million tons of biomass from residue is being wasted annually within India alone. So you can estimate globally how much that is there. Even the pine needles, if you say, I think later in northern India, some forests, this needle, they don't get decomposed very easily. So again, the forest fires, all this contributing to greenhouse gases and climate change. How to manage this biomass from the local forest, which doesn't decompose so easily, as well as crop residue, how do we manage? And also at the same time meet the energy requirements of the local communities. So whether we are using fossil fuels in tractors, let us say, or pump sets, electricity we are using. So somehow we are providing. Rural electrification is a very big issue. It was a challenge. I think we have addressed many such challenges, including providing LPG. Now the cost of LPG is so high. Providing a cylinder is not a solution. Providing somebody a wallet is not the solution. How do they refill? So it is something like every month or every 2 months, a rural community, the amount of money that they need to spend in spite of government subsidies. Of course, the subsidy is also coming down a lot. Even governments cannot afford. And especially within agriculture, urea is one of the important factors, and energy required for urea production. Any of the urea will also contribute to greenhouse gases, because the nitrous oxides is a from urea, because we use so much urea, it is not taken by the plant alone. Somewhere it will end up ultimately into the atmosphere. Potent greenhouse gas as compared to CO2, it is very high. So I think these contributions are again happening, but at the same time burning this LPG gas for generating urea. Now biggest challenge is another question, fundamental question is food security. So if you don't have enough LPG, that gas availability, then we may not able to generate so much urea. Already we have the people buying this urea in black in some states, because it is not available so much. So it means immediately, because now our crop production, whatever surplus we have, or at least we are addressing food security, is based on this urea or the subsidies that we are providing, including phosphorus and other things, phosphate basically. So these are not available much now. So I think food insecurity is going to increase, and food is the fundamental thing. It's an energy. Either you burn energy, or either in the form of calories when you intake. That is also energy. So this fundamental energy, the food security, is a very big challenge globally. And in the present context, with this oil peak or this fossil fuels not existing anymore much, so I think we'll have bigger problem. And anyhow, the human power is has very little meaning nowadays. Human beings have become almost all nothing. They cannot do anything. They don't even walk. So I think that is the worst of the human power now. So everything they use tools, and they don't have much energies also. And what will be impacted is local rural communities' livelihoods, like cottage industries. Many industries will be there which are supported locally. So that will be impacted because they already shifted from the traditional systems to the modern electricity and other systems. Even a carpenter, earlier he had all the materials by himself. Now even in a rural area, carpenter cannot work without power. So like that in all industries, these things have been replaced. So to get even the drinking water, some villages we have seen where there is no drinking water available, basic fundamental, when there is no power. So they don't have those such kind of open wells and all that, because now we have tube wells, very deep wells. So that rural economy and the rural systems, or the rural, especially a kind of democracy or the freedom that they had with energy, that is lost. Another fundamental thing is cook stoves. Yes, I worked on chullas, biomass chullas, and I know the challenges even now. It is not just addressing with efficient stoves we can address the climate change issues, but also the health of women and also children, and the cooking time that is taken, and the drudgery of women, and the risk of women when they get into forest to fetch food. So there are so many things around that, and now I have seen again there is a surge of interest, or people again going back to the traditional chullas. But these traditional chullas are very rudimentary, and they are like three stone stoves. They don't address the efficiencies, and they also contribute to greenhouse gas emissions. And even including countries like Germany, I saw the number of hits on my websites have increased when there were refugees, and even now they are increasing because they don't have enough gas to cool themselves. So they are watching these traditional technologies. So somehow to adopt, and to somehow they, because they have winter now, so they have very big challenge. So I think there is a lot that we need to work on the traditional rural energy sources, or improve them, including they can have some kind of mini thermal power plants, efficient mini thermal power plants themselves, which they can use for all, like cutting, chipping wood, or cutting grass, or including they can have some electricity generated out of that. So like that, these kind of decentralized energy options we need to work on, because centralized energies are not cost effective. Not only that, the transmission losses, risks, grid failure. We have many challenges now. I think people will soon realize they are be pushed back into like 100 years or 50 years back within no time, because they need to immediately adapt to many traditional things. But overall, the carbon footprint that we are telling is again related to the use of these sources of energies. Then again, green buildings is one thing. Vernacular architecture was always eco-friendly, and the burnt bricks were very rarely used. They use local rocks and soil, clay, straw, like that, and many things. I think we need to bring down this total, including maintenance of a building after construction or during construction, or pre the materials when you are choosing. I think at every level we need to work on this, and the government buildings which are promoted are very cost, as well as the energy wise, they require more energy. including the people to stay in such houses, they need all sorts of energy. Without fan, they cannot sleep in such houses. I think the ventilators or windows or all these six fundamental things they need to incorporate. Without this, the natural elements that are very, very important, like the natural lighting, the natural, the wind patterns or whatever, or the circulation of air within buildings, all these things will help. That will make people live happily. So here, I think people also need to adopt a lot. Even when they use these vehicles for the transportation, the energy that they consume is and the emissions that they now at least 1 ton and above, and an average Indians are contributing per annum the CO2 emissions. I think this is increasing day by day. We need to have a lifestyle where one can walk or one can have a cycle to travel or avoid traveling. That is another area, because transportation sector is also a major contributor for this emissions, and including eating habits. That is very, very important. See, ultimately your consumption of food is also energy, and what you eat is also right from how that food is produced and by what means it is produced. Let us say I have a poultry farm. Even in the poultry shed, I will have so much emission by the animals themselves. The amount of food that you would feed to animals also is having an impact. So all these emissions, if you put together, and if you are eating 1 kg of chicken, then ultimately you will be having more carbon footprint. So non-vegetarian, unless it is required, unless in that geography you don't get anything else, I think such kind of adaptations we need to do, including with this changed environment, what food we need to consume to for this increased average global temperatures, or what kind of food we need to consume during winters. Because once you eat food, that will also generate heat in you, so you don't require external sources of energy like heaters or coolers, something like that. So I think we need to adopt a lot in this our way of life and food habits and all that. But ultimately, whoever preaches, whoever participates in this also, including myself, everybody, we cannot be having two kinds of lives. And what we are seeing, the leaders attending COP27 coming by jet planes or unnecessary, people are just traveling as tourists. I think this doesn't show an example, and the kind of environment where they are staying, how much ACs they are using, and all these costs are there. So similarly, at each individual level, when we are questioning them, we cannot be something like armchair preachers. Yes, we need to come out and we have to lead by example. You practice and preach. So this is very much required for every individual. I think we need to adopt. We had to show the world and especially younger generation. We had to inspire them, and our education should system should also change accordingly. And I think there is a lot we need to do. Thank you very much. Thanks to everyone. If there are any questions, I will take. Otherwise, we'll close the session. So there are no, yeah, there are no questions. Thanks to everyone.